My child, someone deeply regrets letting you go. They are quietly watching your every move. The name of this person is. My child, pause for a moment before you read any further. Breathe slowly. Let your heart become quiet, because this message did not come to you by accident. It arrived at the exact moment your soul was ready to hear it. There is something moving around you right now, soft, unseen, but very real. It has been circling your life, your thoughts, your silence. You have felt it in the sudden heaviness of certain nights, in the strange pull you feel when you think you are finally free. You wondered why memories returned without warning, why certain emotions rose from nowhere. This is why. My child, someone deeply regrets letting you go. They do not speak this regret out loud. They do not confess it to others. They carry it quietly, like a wound they refuse to show. From heaven, I see them when the world cannot. I see them watching you from a distance, pretending they have moved on, pretending they are strong, pretending your absence does not echo in every part of their life. But nothing is hidden from heaven. Nothing is hidden from me. They watch your every move in silence. Not with joy. Not with peace. But with a deep ache they created with their own hands. My child, there was a time when they believed you would always be there. They believed your patience had no end, your love had no limits, your forgiveness would outlast their confusion. They mistook your kindness for weakness. They mistook your loyalty for something that could be replaced. And so they made a choice, slowly, carelessly, thinking there would be time to fix it later. But heaven knows, later never came. Now they watch you rise in ways they never imagined. They see you growing calmer, stronger, more centered. They notice how your eyes no longer search for them the way they once did. They see you learning how to smile without permission, how to breathe without their approval. And this is what breaks them the most. My child, regret is loud in heaven, even when it is silent on earth. They replay moments in their mind, things they said, things they failed to say, doors they closed thinking you would knock forever. They remember how you stayed when it was hard, how you chose them when others turned away, how you tried to understand them when they did not even understand themselves. They remember your voice, your patience, the way you loved without asking to be loved back the same way. And now, when they realize what they lost, fear holds their tongue. They are afraid to reach out because they see the change in you. They sense that you are no longer standing in the same place where they left you. They are afraid you will not answer the way you once did. Afraid you will not wait. Afraid you will not come running. Afraid that heaven has already moved you forward, and they are right to be afraid. My child, heaven has been protecting you in ways you do not yet fully see. You wondered why communication stopped suddenly, why doors closed without explanation, why clarity came through pain instead of comfort. It was not punishment. It was rescue. Heaven stepped in when your heart could no longer protect itself. Heaven removed you gently, even when it felt like loss. Even when it felt like abandonment. Even when you cried and asked why. I heard every prayer you whispered in the dark. I saw every tear you wiped away quickly so no one would notice. I saw how you blamed yourself for things that were never your fault. And while you were healing, They were watching. They watch when you post nothing and yet feel more alive. They watch when you laugh again. They watch when others notice your light. They watch when your energy no longer chases what once ran from you. And regret grows heavier. My child, they did not lose you because you were unworthy. They did not lose you because you lacked something to give. They lost you because they could not recognize purity when it stood in front of them, breathing, waiting, loving with a kind of loyalty that the world rarely understands. They lost you because they tried to measure something divine with mortal hands. They tested what was given freely. They delayed what was meant for now. They hesitated when heaven whispered, "Choose them," and in that hesitation, they lost what could never be recreated. They wanted love that came with no effort, certainty without surrender, peace without accountability. They wanted to receive blessings while refusing the transformation required to hold them. They wanted to taste heaven but still live as if earth's fears ruled their heart. They wanted to love you in theory, but not in truth. They wanted warmth without the fire that purifies. But heaven never allows the lukewarm to carry the rare. Heaven does not build forever on half-kept promises or unspoken intentions. Only the wholehearted can hold what heaven anoints. You were not a test, they were. You were not their trial, they were yours. Heaven allowed their presence in your life not to break you, but to awaken you. You came with a love that could change them, yet they were too accustomed to comfort to face their own reflection through you. You saw their potential long before they did. You saw what they could become if only they stopped shrinking under fear. But instead of rising to meet your light, they chose to dim it, not realizing that your glow was not pride, it was purpose. Now they know the consequence of delay. Now they understand the silence they once dismissed. They feel the loss in quiet spaces, when they pick up their phone and your name no longer appears. When laughter comes but fades too quickly. When they try to celebrate alone and the joy feels hollow. They feel it in the echo after a moment of victory that no longer tastes as sweet. They feel your absence when life turns heavy and there is no gentle voice to speak peace. They feel you in every place they once ignored you. And in that feeling, they learn. Heaven allows remembrance not as punishment, but as purification. The ache that now follows them is not cruelty, it is divine education. Regret is a sacred teacher, the one that arrives when every other message has been ignored. When your words failed, silence became the lesson. When your love exhausted itself, absence took its place as the mirror. Now they see what grace looked like, but it is gone. Now they understand what patience meant, but it is too late to keep it. Heaven always completes what it begins, even when hearts resist the truth. Do you remember, my child, the times you questioned your worth? When you looked to heaven and said, "Why does it hurt to love if my love is pure?" You cried thinking maybe you had done too much, cared too deeply, expected too sincerely. But heaven never called that weakness. Heaven called it evidence. Proof that you were built for a higher love, one that does not bend under confusion or fear. Your heart was sculpted for divine partnership, not temporary company. It was never wrong to love deeply, it was wrong for them to stay shallow. You were rare, child. Born with a spirit that carries light wherever it walks. You do not blend because you are not meant to. You are anointed to shift atmospheres, not adapt to them. But rarity is often misunderstood. It confuses the ones who still chase approval from the world. You are not meant to convince them who you are. You are meant to remind them who they could be. And sometimes the only way heaven can show your value is by removing you from those who could not see it. They will replay the moments now. The things they said, and the things they never said but should have. The times you waited, and they assumed you always would. The times you forgave, and they thought your heart would keep opening no matter how much they ignored its call. They will ask themselves, why did I wait until they left to see what I had? They will question why they treated eternity as something that could be postponed. And heaven will answer, not with scolding, but with truth, because love cannot survive indecision forever. Heaven watches all hearts, child. It knows who is ready and who is not. That is why your separation did not destroy you. It delivered you. You thought the silence was abandonment, but it was alignment. You thought being unseen was rejection, but it was protection. Heaven was not punishing you by keeping distance, heaven was preserving your purpose. You were never meant to be trapped in waiting rooms built by others' confusion. You were meant to walk in the timing of divine certainty. And now you are at that doorway. The pause you felt, the stillness that sometimes felt like loneliness, was not emptiness. It was preparation. Heaven was rebuilding your foundation after human disappointment shook it. You learned that love is sacred only when both hearts choose it with surrender. You discovered that peace is not the absence of others, but the presence of truth. You stopped chasing closure and started becoming it. And now heaven is ready to show you what comes next. But before you walk forward, heaven wanted you to know this truth, that they regret losing you. They regret not listening when your spirit spoke through silence. They regret misjudging your kindness as naivety. They regret thinking they had time while time was already running out. They now see that love cannot be stored like a keepsake, it must be lived before it fades. Their cries reach heaven now, but heaven will not rewrite destiny to satisfy remorse. Regret may knock, but divine timing does not open backwards. Do not confuse their longing with readiness, child. Longing can still live in a heart that refuses transformation. People can ache for what they lost without becoming capable of holding it again. Do not confuse their pain with repentance. Do not confuse regret with restoration. Not everyone who misses you has changed, some just finally understand what they destroyed. And heaven will not send you back to rebuild what it already restored within you. You are no longer available for lessons that heaven already taught. You are not here to heal them. That season is complete. You are not here to wait for them to awaken, heaven has already written a new name next to yours. You are not here to prove you were worthy, heaven already declared it. You have already been chosen, not by fleeting affection, but by eternal design. The future heaven holds for you requires both hands free, both eyes forward, and a heart that no longer scans the past for approval. Heaven has been waiting for this moment. To show you what it was preparing while you thought nothing was happening. Every tear watered the promise. Every loss sharpened your discernment. Every delay amplified your value in the spiritual realm. What you thought was the end was only the stillness before rebirth. You outgrew seasons that could no longer carry your anointing. You outgrew love that only flourished in convenience. You outgrew their language because heaven was teaching you fluency in destiny. Now, child, you stand where many cannot stand, in the in-between, where everything looks quiet but creation is loud in the unseen. This is not the silence of absence, it is the silence of becoming. Heaven will reveal alignment that makes sense of every heartbreak. You will see why they let you go, why timing broke, why you were asked to walk away before you understood. The answers were always waiting on the other side of obedience. And now you stand there. The one who regrets letting you go still watches, but not from readiness. They see your glow and wish they had believed in it sooner. They watch you rise, healing others with the same strength you once used to love them. They feel heaven's hand pulling you higher, and they wish they had climbed when you invited them. But watching is not awakening. Observing your light is not the same as walking into their own. They are moved, but not yet transformed. That is why heaven tells you, do not turn around. You do not need to rescue them anymore. Their healing is now their path, not your purpose. Heaven is not cruel, child. It is compassionate beyond measure, far more tender than the human heart can sometimes comprehend in the midst of its breaking. It teaches through both love and loss, weaving lessons into the very fabric of our days with a patience that spans eternities. While they, the one who walked away, may learn through the slow burn of regret, through nights spent replaying choices they cannot undo, you are being invited into something deeper, something luminous. You will learn through revelation. You will come to understand that even endings are holy, that every closed door carries within it the whisper of a greater opening. Your pain was never a punishment handed down from an indifferent sky. It was a seed planted in the rich, dark soil of your soul, waiting for the right season to break open and grow toward the light. Consider how divine timing operates, never wasteful, never hurried. It never discards a single heartbeat. Every moment of delay, every stretch of silence, every unanswered prayer that once felt like abandonment, all of it held purpose. Heaven allowed their absence not to torment you, but so you could finally meet your own presence. In their leaving, space was created. A vast, quiet room inside you where you could finally hear your own voice without competition, without negotiation. Heartbreak, though it arrived in sharp, tearing waves, was not sent to destroy you. It was the chisel that carved greater capacity within your chest, hollowing out more room for the love that is coming, a love too expansive to fit inside the smaller version of you that once settled for less. The love heaven is preparing to send will feel entirely different from what came before. It will not be constructed on shifting sand of doubt. There will be no need to shrink yourself, to soften your edges, to dim your truth so that someone else might feel comfortable standing beside you. This love will not arrive as a test of your endurance, demanding you prove your worth through patience or pain. It will not leave you suspended in uncertainty, checking your phone for signs of life, wondering if today will be the day they finally choose you. No. This love will see you. Truly see you, in all your complexity and radiance, and it will recognize you instantly. It will choose you without hesitation, without a lengthy internal debate, without requiring you to audition for the role of beloved. It will hold your heart as something sacred, not temporary. Not a possession to be claimed when convenient and set aside when inconvenient. This love will mirror the very steadiness of heaven itself. The kind that remains when storms rise and winds howl, the kind that builds quietly even when emotions ebb and flow like tides, the kind that honors the full weight of what you carry, your history, your hopes, your hard-won wisdom, without asking you to set any of it down to make room for someone else's comfort. This love will not arrive confused, second-guessing itself, wondering whether it is ready. It will arrive prepared, already aligned, already certain, because heaven does not send half-finished gifts. Yet to receive this, child, you must complete the sacred work of release. There can be no carrying of both regret and revelation at once, they are incompatible passengers on the same journey. You cannot step through new doors while still clutching old keys, worn smooth from futile turning in locks that no longer belong to you. The lesson heaven placed before you was never intended to embitter your spirit or harden the tender places inside you. It was given to make you wiser, to refine your discernment, to teach you the difference between what merely feels like love and what truly is. Forgiveness becomes necessary now, not as an absolution for their shortcomings, not as an excuse for what they chose, but as a deliberate act of liberation for yourself. You must forgive them to break free from the invisible spiritual cycles that would otherwise repeat. Forgive, too, the earlier version of yourself, the one who waited too long, who begged for scraps, who mistook endurance for devotion. Forgive the nights you spent pleading with heaven for something you now recognize you had already outgrown. Grace, in its purest form, is the final, gentle act of release. Heaven, in its infinite mercy, kept certain truths veiled until this precise moment. If the full weight of their regret had been laid bare too soon, while your heart was still raw, still bleeding from the echoes of love lost, you might have turned back. Not out of wisdom, but out of compassion, not out of clarity, but out of the old habit of rescuing what was never yours to save. Heaven guards destiny with fierce tenderness, protecting it from distractions masquerading as unfinished business. That is why the silences sometimes feel so long, why doors close without explanation, why answers are withheld until you have grown strong enough to bear them. Only now, after the healing has taken root, after the sharpest edges of grief have softened into something wiser, are you ready to hear the truth, not so you might return, but so you might finally let go completely, with both hands open. There are moments in a lifetime when silence speaks louder than any confession. When absence becomes its own language, whispering truths that words could never carry. The one who regrets letting you go is not your enemy. They were never meant to play the villain in your story, no matter how deeply their choices carved into your heart. Their role was not punishment, it was purpose. They were a chapter, sacred in its own right, written with divine precision. Painful, yes, but holy all the same. Their presence illuminated the beginning of your transformation, and their departure sealed it. They arrived to awaken something the universe hid deep within you, strength that had slumbered quietly beneath layers of compliance and longing. They held up a mirror, trembling but true, showing you what self-abandonment looks like over time. Each compromise, each silence, each time you dimmed your brilliance to keep peace, they reflected it all until you could no longer pretend not to see. Through them, Heaven showed you the cost of giving away your peace in the name of love. They became the fire sent to refine you, to burn illusions until the gold of your spirit remained untarnished. The pain that followed their absence was not evidence of weakness but proof of depth. You had loved purely, without reserve. That kind of love always leaves echoes, like faint smoke curling through the chambers of memory. Yet now, where sorrow once took root, gratitude blooms quietly. Gratitude for the mirror, for the fire, for the awakening. Gratitude for being chosen by heaven to learn through the most sacred of teachers, love and loss intertwined like sun and shadow. You began to understand that love, in its truest form, does not demand that you shrink. It does not ask you to trade your wholeness for belonging or to silence your truth just to be kept. Real love celebrates your fullness. It cups your light in its hands, not to contain it, but to help it shine brighter. The lesson you carried through heartbreak became your compass. Authentic love never requires the abandonment of self. And so heaven speaks again, composing a final movement of this symphony you've lived through. The melody is softer now, threaded with wisdom and grace. Listen, the divine whispers, for you are stepping into a new season. In this season, your worth is no longer on trial. You will not bend yourself into smaller shapes to fit inside someone's limited understanding. You will no longer pour endlessly into emptiness. You will no longer cry in hidden corners, begging to be seen by eyes that refuse to look. Those days are ending. The universe has declared it so. You are entering a time when what you give will return to you multiplied, not because you demand it, but because balance is the law of nature. You will be met with reciprocity, joy, gentleness, and honor. You will be treasured deliberately, not tolerated quietly. There will be no pretense, no guessing games between souls unsure of each other. Instead, there will be recognition, a soul-deep knowing that says, "Ah, there you are. I've been preparing for you too." You will not apologize for how much you love, for how brightly you shine. The very qualities once deemed too much will be the exact reason someone falls in reverence before your spirit. Your laughter will no longer echo unanswered, it will harmonize. Your silence will be met with safety, not suspicion. The universe is aligning people, places, and divine appointments that will meet your frequency instead of demanding you lower it. This shift is not random, it is sacred architecture. Heaven always builds new seasons upon revelation, not regret. Every tear, every prayer whispered into the dark, every moment you doubted your worth, it all formed the blueprint for what comes next. You did not lose when they left. You were rerouted. You were being prepared to inhabit a reality your former self could not yet hold. Now heaven reveals the truth behind the whole story. The one who regrets letting you go was never cruel beyond redemption. They were afraid. Somewhere between their intentions and their insecurities, fear took the throne. Fear dressed itself as pride, logic, hesitation, whispering that safety mattered more than surrender. When your soul said leap, theirs said later. When you reached in faith, they recoiled in doubt. You were ready, they were not. It was not malice, it was fear's resistance to stand before love's blazing fire. You were the embodiment of faith. You loved boldly, confessed truthfully, dreamed expansively. That level of spiritual courage can overwhelm those who have built walls instead of altars. So they withdrew, not because your love was too much, but because they could not yet meet it without collapsing. They chose what was familiar over what was sacred. That choice wounded you, yes, but it also liberated your destiny. For heaven will never allow your future to rest upon someone else's unprepared heart. Now, as divine justice unfolds in silence, their lesson begins where yours ended. They will feel the echo of your spirit in quiet moments. They will understand, at last, that what they walked away from was not a person, it was a divine encounter. But that chapter is theirs now to wrestle with, to learn from. The story no longer belongs to you. Yours is the sunrise, not the shadow. Walk forward in this knowing, with your shoulders unburdened and your heart unclenched. Heaven does not write future miracles on the paper of past mistakes. Your story does not end in loss. It renews itself in revelation. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are no longer trying to prove that you are enough. You are walking as one already chosen, already seen, already appointed, already beloved by the one who calls galaxies into being. Feel that. The same energy that holds stars in place now holds your heart steady. The same light that rises with each dawn rises within you, whispering, you were never too much. Every moment you were told to tone down your truth or temper your spirit, the universe winced, for it knew your radiance was not meant to be domesticated. You were designed as a beacon, not a flicker. And those who could not handle your magnitude were never your judges, they were your measurement. Through their inability, you discovered your scale. You were never too late. The timing was always perfect, even when it felt unbearable. Every delay was protection. Every detour was direction. Heaven never wastes time, it repurposes it. What felt like stagnation was a sacred pause, space for your roots to deepen before your next bloom. And now, the garden is ready. You were never asking for too much. You were simply loving at the level heaven designed you to. Yours is love that restores, love that transforms, love that stands unshaken in the storm. That kind of love demands an equal soul, one refined enough to mirror your courage, not consume it. That soul is now being led toward you by unseen hands. Even now, as you read these words, your future is not approaching, it is unfolding around you in divine timing. You may not yet see it, but the energy has shifted. The doors you feared had closed are no longer locked, their hinges were simply recalibrating to open into new light. You are being guided toward encounters that recognize the truth of who you are without you needing to prove it. Heaven smiles upon this very moment, because it sees what your eyes cannot yet perceive, your arrival. The waiting ends here, not because everything outside you has changed, but because everything within you finally has. You have remembered who you are. You've stopped searching for validation in temporary reflections. You've learned to sit in stillness without mistaking it for emptiness. The future calls your name, not as a plea, not as an offer, but as a homecoming. You are walking into a field that no longer requires striving. Every step forward will feel lighter, more aligned, less forced. Your yes now carries authority, your no carries peace. Every boundary you once felt guilty for setting will now become a gate of protection around your divine purpose. You no longer chase clarity, it arrives. You no longer beg for love, you attract it naturally, wrapped in mutual reverence. You no longer bend to fit someone else's frame, you walk freely in your own. The divine does not call you to prove your worth through exhaustion but to embody it through rest. So stand where you are for a moment. Feel the atmosphere shifting. The air carries memory, yet it also carries prophecy. You are not who you were when they walked away. You are not defined by the heartbreak that once fractured your nights. You have become the living evidence that endings can bloom into beginnings, that pain can purify instead of destroy. And when you look back one day, you'll see that everything was necessary, the love, the loss, the silence in between. Each played its part in sculpting your faith until you could stand on the other side, not bitter, but illuminated. The universe does not celebrate your suffering, but it honors your resilience. It honors the nights you kept believing when the evidence ran out. It honors the steady pulse of your faith when logic told you to quit. Every moment of endurance built a bridge to the life unfolding now. So when heaven whispers that your new season has begun, trust it. This is not a fragile hope, it is a divine decree. The universe is not testing you anymore, it is rewarding you. The energies that once opposed your peace are now bowing before your alignment. You have nothing left to prove. You only have to live as the one who already triumphed. The lesson belongs to them. The destiny belongs to you. And destiny always keeps its appointments. This time, you answer the call differently. Not with trembling, but with trust. Both feet firmly planted on sacred ground, heart wide open, no longer afraid of its own vast capacity to love. You do not hide the depth anymore, you dwell in it. You do not perform worthiness, you embody it. And heaven smiles because it always knew you would arrive here. All those broken pieces were never proof of failure, they were coordinates, leading you home. This time, you do not wait for someone to choose you. You walk as one already chosen. This time, your yes does not come from desperation, it rises from destiny. This time, beloved, the answer is yes. And heaven, in all its infinite knowing, whispers back, finally.